older. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. I think you're more hyper aware of what your content looks like than everybody else is. So you could
Yeah.
sit there and somebody edits the video for you, and you're like, "This is not how I do it." There's the frame here is not exactly where I want it to land. But
Yeah.
then to the outside world, they're like, "Yeah, this is a good video."
Yeah.
Uh,
People in the live chat who watch my stream, they'll watch me edit something, and I'll just like yell at the premiere, not yell, but like incredibly OCD when it comes to this kind of stuff. But you're right. You're definitely right. It's like how when you look in the mirror, you notice things a hell of a lot more because you're more familiar with it.
for
Um,
sure. My
so
biggest thing right now is voiceovers for like you do a couple lines at a time and then you splice them together.
yeah,
I'm like very particular with how much pause there is in between each line in my voiceovers,
yeah,
to the point where I cannot have anybody else edit it. Like I've tried to let other people do it and it drives me crazy. I cannot watch the videos that they did it for me.
that's interesting.
um
Well, you're right. It's your image. It's what you're putting out there, and whether we're overthinking it or not, you still have some degree of polish that we're all more like I'm anal retentive over like what's it called, editing, and I want to make it as highly produced. But you know as well, there's diminishing returns, especially with funded content. In that a video can only
Absolutely.
turn out so good, you know.
Especially it's YouTube. That's the other thing. Sometimes you have to step back and say, this is not an HBO documentary. This is
Yes,
for YouTube.
yes,
And the other thing that I've come to appreciate more nowadays, especially because of how I view YouTube videos, I don't really watch YouTube that much.
me either.
I have YouTube Premium. I turn off my phone and I listen to it in the background while I do other things.
Exactly. Yeah,
So it's one of these things where like I'm working on a big project right now that's like 80 minutes long. um, and when I was getting my writers to like start doing the scripts for me, I was like, you have to write these as if a lot of people won't even have a visual element. They're just
yeah,
going to listen to it. And
yeah.
nowadays, that's kind of how I'm writing my scripts, is making sure that even if they're not looking at the video, they could still understand what's going on just by listening to it.
That's interesting. You should bring that up because I kind of question myself in the sense that I'm like, did I? Are people even like they'll comment something where they clearly haven't seen the video, or they'll like, and you put some visual element there to explain like a joke, or you don't literally explain a joke, and you can tell they didn't watch the video, obviously, and
Yeah.
you're realizing, oh shit, everyone is just alt tabbed. They're just listening, or they just have their headphones on, and that makes a lot of sense because how much free time does any average person have at work to actually watch the video? A lot of people work at like any given job, like let's say they're doing overnight stock at like a grocery store, and they have their headphones in while they're doing their job. That makes so much sense. I didn't even think about that, but hey, good point, man. Good point. I would consider
Yeah,
that going
I'd actually
forward.
be really interested. Maybe I could like run a poll just for my like subscribers to see what percentage of people do it.
Yeah,
But it's one of these things where, yeah, man, that's the main reason I have YouTube Premium, is just turn
yeah,
off. I go and I'm scrolling some other tab on
yeah,
my phone while I'm listening to a video in the background,
yeah,
because like honestly, it's like the other problem with YouTube nowadays, and I think the adpocalypse was a very big cause of this, was back in the good old days, as people call it. There was a lot of comedy on YouTube. There were sketches. People were making jokes a lot. It was a lot of like visual gags and stuff. But I feel the content that now thrives in a post-apocalypse YouTube is a lot more just like informative content,
yeah. It
where the
does.
visuals are just kind of like there.
It's in.
Like sometimes I make a internet mystery video and I'm like really struggling to come up with like visual elements to put on the screen because there's really none available.
You're telling me.
Um,
You're right. You're right. Sorry
so
to.
a lot more people use like stock footage nowadays, that they get a subscription at like Video Blocks or whatever, and they just fill up their content with stock image images and videos, and like some cool backgrounds with like a little bit of moving visuals in the front of it. um I think it's just part of the space nowadays where I think podcasts and videos, they're kind of combining.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, Silent Coyote. By the way, thanks. I haven't been able to get to subs. Thank you guys for the subs. But Silent Coyote cheered bits, and he also said, I wanted to say that I listen to your videos at work and primarily on audio only mode. But when I do try to look at it, but whenever I can, it's just that hours of digestible content, it's impossible to watch with your eyes. That's true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, I think a lot of people are like that. And the other thing is I'm listening to videos. Sometimes they say something and I'm like, oh, there's a visual, and I go and I pull
Then
up
you
the
go back.
screen,
Yeah.
and then I backspace, or I tap it 10 seconds back, and then I look at what the visual is when I feel I need to.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's probably why 10-minute videos have to be like, you see like the vlog channels, they have to be so in your face for you to actually watch them. But informative content where we kind of fall into this middle ground. Maybe a lot of people like compliment like my voice, and I'm thinking maybe that's the only reason. Some people are like, I don't even watch your content, I listen to you talk, and I'm like, that's kind of weird, but that kind of makes a lot of sense. But